Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my new video where we are going to be covering Vladimir. Now, by the end of this video, I really want to have made you a better Vladimir player and to give you a better understanding of the champion as a whole by the end of the video. If you're new to my channel, my name is Lofit. I do educational content, I do tips videos, guide videos, and I also stream here on YouTube. If you would like to skip around, I always have timestamps at the top of my videos if you'd like to skip this intro or a particular tip. You can contact me directly in two different ways. One will be down below. There will be a pinned comment with a link to my Discord if you'd like to send me any messages there. Or you can hit that bell button and the subscribe button to be notified when I go live here on YouTube. Also, if you would like to add your own tips, you played a fair bit of Vladimir yourself and you really want to share something that I didn't cover in the video, as I am a bit limited with this format, I heavily encourage you guys to add your own tips to help out your fellow Vladimir players down below. And with all that out of the way, let's get into the first tip. Alright, and getting into the first tip, I want to give you some optimal runes to use right now when we are starting Season 10 with Vladimir. This is really important because we rely a lot on our runes for our ability to catch up with our opposing enemies, and we are looking to get off really strong flanks, and this is done through our runes, as our kit doesn't really provide us with too much mobility outside of a little bit of a movement speed burst when you proc your second Q. So phase rush is extremely important because it gives you slow resistance and allows you backline access. Second, Nimbus Cloak is a very strong ability because it allows you to get some extra bonus movement speed when you're looking for those big flash in and AoE spells. Second, getting CDR on Vladimir is his most important stat because it allows you to heal more, do more damage, and really just be that much more of a nuisance when you are playing Vladimir, as well as going Gathering Storm to get that really strong late game that a lot of Vladimir players really like. Now, with the inspiration in secondary, you want to continue down this trend of movement speed and CDR being the two most important things that you really want to focus on Vladimir, and that is magical footwear, giving you some extra movement speed and some free boots, and then next up giving you the cosmic insight, which is going to be so great because you usually use quite a few items with actives, as well as getting that max CDR is really important, as well as getting more of those flash engages that really enable Vladimir to carry quite heavily. As far as items go, you really want to get a decent amount of CDR from your items. There are things that I think are very core for Vladimir, and that first one is the Hex Tech Proto Belt and the Zonias to enable you to get an extra rotation off of your spells and to give you a really strong defensive on top of your W, and the Hex Tech Proto Belt really just giving you that much more mobility and getting you into a better position for your Hemo Plague. The rest of the items I think are pretty situational. Spellbinder can be extremely good if you are struggling to get onto backliners and you want that extra movement speed and really that on use burst that it provides quite well. And that will wrap up tip number 1. Alright, and getting into tip number 2, I want to talk about optimizing damage when you are playing Vladimir. First up, you really want to understand that Hemoplague gives you a 10% damage buff with your combos and from all sources. So you want to make sure this is the first thing that affects the enemy when you are looking to burst them down. Second, you want to have a fully charged Blood Nova hit them, as the amount of damage is really increased. As you can see, even the ratios and the base amount of damage is going to be so much more if you do not just snapcast it and you let it do a full charge. The last thing that you want to understand is that you have the Crimson Rush ability that is going to give you an increased damage amplification on your Q. So how this combo is going to look is you want to have a Q that is ready and a bar that is red, your E charging in, and your R hitting the enemy at the first point of contact. So I'm going to give you guys an example. I'm just going to charge up my Q real quick here. I want to have my E channeled before I go in. R, E, Q, and then you can use your W and your abilities on use, just depending on how the fight goes. But the basis of your all-in combo that you really want to make sure is your R is hitting first, then your E, and then you can auto if you want to weave it in an auto, and then you can Q and look to use your Hextech Proto Belt and get that really nice damage off while the amplification is still there, and then use your Sanguine Pool and your Zonia's Hourglass based on how the team fight or the current engagement is going. If you are going to get turned on after using your combo, it wasn't enough damage, or you underestimated the enemy, you can look to W away, and you want to use these things in a way where it's going to really just flow with the way of combat. If you have any questions about these different combos, there are a bunch of different ways to play it out, but this is my absolute favorite, and that will wrap up tip number 2. Alright, and getting into tip number 3, I think one of the things that really separate the poor Vladimir players from the very good Vladimir players are their ability to lane and really get to that late game state. I think anyone could play a Vladimir with full build in the late game, as he is so insanely strong. So you really want to take care and try and hide a lot of your weaknesses that you have in your early game. If you are under a lot of threat in the early game and you are maybe in a lane matchup that is really tough, you are going to want to look for backs that are going to be great. Boots are a huge just a very great way. If you do not have the magical footwear, you want to buy early boots just so you can weave in and out and you can escape easier from ganks and to be a little bit more aggressive and defensive. It is a great overall pick. If you are in a tough matchup, getting a little bit of early HP can be great. Going the Kindle Gem before maybe going the Fiendish Codex for the Zhonya's Hourglass. So always make sure that you are bridging your early game with defensive abilities if you are in lane matchups that are tough. However, the delicate balancing act that you can have with Vladimir is he is able to bully, as he is a ranged top laner with some decent base damage and burst potentials in certain situations. So if you're an experienced Vladimir player and you're in a matchup that is really easy and you're going to be looking for a kill, you want to be going more aggressive and you want to be going a little bit more early AP as opposed to the early health. So to kind of keep track of what lanes you feel really comfortable with and what lanes that you feel that you are really struggling with, and find that delicate balancing act with Vladimir. If you have any questions about this, you can hit me up down below. I think Doran's Shield is a great item for Vladimir in the start because it gives you a little bit of health regen, and it gives you some health, and it also helps you out a bit with last hitting with your basic autos from its passive. And that will wrap up this tip. Alright, and getting into tip number 4, I think this is going to be a tough thing to get used to, but once you get good at it, it is going to pay so many dividends, and that is the TP teleport flank into team fights from a split push position, or maybe if you're looking to have a home guard. But what I think is really great about the flanks that you can get with your TPs is it synergizes so well with the new Nimbus Cloak. If you didn't know, it used to be procced on ultimates, but now it is procced on summoner spells. So how this works for TP flankers is, as you can see, when I start channeling the teleport, Nimbus Cloak isn't procced. It is procced after the channel of the teleport is completed. So you can look for something like this, where you teleport in, you start channeling your E, and then you can look to get a very strong team fight, and using that extra bonus speed that you are getting from that Nimbus Cloak without having to use Flash or even your Hextech Proto Belt to get into a good situation. So make sure that you're running teleport on Vladimir, as it is going to be so beneficial and essentially give you 2 different movement speed buffs that you can get when you are playing Vladimir, and just really get good access in those team fights. Because if you are maybe it's a front to back team fight and you aren't able to get past the front line and you aren't approaching them from any kind of angles, you are going to struggle to do a lot and play in an optimal way when you are looking to Vladimir. So make sure you're taking full advantage of Nimbus Cloak with both the teleport flanks as well as utilizing it when you need to get to that back line with a big flash play when you are playing Vladimir. If you have any questions about this, you can hit me up in the comments down below. Alright, getting into the final tip, I want to talk a little bit about Vladimir and his overall kit and how it can really work to your different situations that you're going to find yourself when you are on the Rift, and that is how almost every single one of his abilities can be used in both a offensive and a defensive way. Now, I want to start particularly with the W, as it is a great tool to be defensive, to dodge high impact spells. For example, something like a Zed ultimate or a Fizz ultimate that are looking to latch on you and do a lot of damage in a short amount of time. Going untargetable is going to be extremely strong, but in true Vladimir fashion, as you can see with the movement speed, Vladimir can really chase people down and get into really good situations if you are looking to chase people with his W, because first of all, it provides you a good slow, so you can slow people down and help your team catch up to the enemies with this brief haste that you get. As you see, movement speed 422 here, but when I W, it jumps all the way up to 514. However, doing this will overextend you without your defensive cooldown up, but if you know the situation is already won, using this W to help you chase down enemies and getting the slow and the burst of movement speed can be extremely strong. Next up, when you are looking to E, it can be used in two different ways. Again, it can be used in an offensive way where you're just looking to do a lot of damage, but also when you are kiting away and they are trying to follow you, it is going to give you a slow, so you can look to kite people out with your E slow and getting the phase rush and using the phase rush in a defensive manner. Also with the Q, it does damage, and then the defensive part of it is healing. A lot of the times when you're playing Vladimir as well, with the Hemoplague having both damage ability and the ability to heal yourself, you are able to use it in a couple of different situations. As I have shown before with the different combos where you're able to maximize damage, doing a defensive Hemoplague can be a great way to ward off enemies if they think that you are looking to all in them and you get a nice really big Hemoplague. They are going to be less likely to chase you if they have that debuff on you, so make sure that you are using every single one of Vladimir's abilities and even his keystone in both an offensive and a defensive manner, and it will just start becoming second nature when you should be using your different abilities in these different situations. You can hit me up in the comments down below and I will try my best to give you guys a better explanation if you need a little bit more help on a particular thing, as well as using Hex Tech in an offensive way to get out, or maybe using it to get a little bit of burst outside. So everything revolving around this kit can be used both in an offensive and a defensive manner, so make sure that you are playing him to his optimal potential. That will be my final tip, guys. If you have any questions for me, you can be up in the comments down below, and as always, take it easy.